who's hosting?
I guess I am.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, you're hosting.
I guess. This is all going in. Hello, dear listeners. Welcome back to your favorite tabletop RPG podcast in the world. It's
your
They See Me
favorite
Roll.
one.
It's They See Me Roll. They
Delete
see me
them
roll
all
flat,
off your
flat
podcast
joints.
except for this one.
Gonna roll up a nice flat doobie and
this a-
smoke some weed with the teens.
Is this one a freebie or is this one going out to the
It's a
patrons?
freebie.
Yeah, it's a freebie. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Stan, we exiled you. We told you never to show your face here again. You
But he's
betrayed your
I
returned.
will
family.
say, for the sake of the listeners, this is like it's gonna be like Night Boy's exit, and then this. So to us, it's been fucking forever, but to the listeners,
Yeah, it's been like 4 months or 5 maybe. Yeah, 4 or 5 months since we
because
recorded
it's
with
before
Stan.
Hayden moved to New York.
Yeah, so this is wild. So this is your first time hearing me in the wonderful city of New York City.
You've changed so much.
Listen, I'm just podcasting here. I've got to.
Yeah, you're eating gabagool right now.
I mean, so much gabagool. Let me tell you.
You've become so much more Italian and yet so much snobbier, too.
Listen, I got a Fente latte in one hand and a Coney Island dog in the other. Just double fisting both of these. Hey, oh. But in case you're wondering why the gang is all together again, we're recording a Q&A episode. Since, it's been a while since we've had one of those. It's been a while. And we've figured it would be the perfect chance to, invite some old friends back into the fold, even though they went against the family.
But Jody isn't here, unfortunately.
So, just climbing the back of, just climbing the trunk of this car, Stan. We're not taking you anywhere, don't worry.
Looks nice and comfortable. Climb right in.
Right. Well, let's just bippity-boppity-boo on down into some listener-submitted questions. We have some fun ones. Let's start with, start with this one. Who are your favorite NPCs so far? Which I'm very curious to hear all of your thoughts on this.
Nocturne.
Nice.
No,
That's a good one.
She seems cool.
Yeah.
Nocturne. I thought Nocturne was gonna be my favorite NPC because she popped up in Ray's prologue episode. But I have to say that Astro Girl has rapidly become my favorite character.
Yeah.
Ray's girlfriend ? Aside.
Ray's It's Complicated, directed by Nancy Myers.
Is that a spoiler? When does that happen?
Yeah. Oh, that's
Who
it.
cares?
Whoops.
Hey,
I don't know.
spoiling it for
It's
me,
not. It's not official yet.
Yeah.
Well,
You
just
can't
wait until next
spoil
episode.
something that's not an official relationship.
Yeah. Anyway, point being, Astro Girl and Ray's dynamic aside, Hayden, I think, mentioned at one point that she was inspired by Elle Woods. And, good call on turning off the fan. I forgot that we needed to do that. 'Cause it's fucking hot, even though it's September. Alright, as I was saying, Astro Girl apparently is based off of Elle Woods. But as somebody who has absolutely zero chill and is also a little bit technically savvy, I actually super relate to Astro Girl, so she's my favorite NPC.
I really, Astro Girl is probably the most well-rounded NPC at this point. I'm also a big fan of Crimson Gale and Spitfire.
Aww.
Yeah, they're good. And I like Um, I think the one that I enjoy interacting with the most is Kid Aries.
Oh, by a mile.
Yeah. Kid Aries feels the most like talking to Kid Aries feels the most like talking to another character.
Yeah, I think Hayden generally does a really good job with NPCs and making them feel like lived characters. And like they have their, and like you see like in the dance episodes a lot, like they have their own like the Crimson Gale Spitfire stuff, or Hexbat and Wraith's fight, where you kind of get like a sense that like we exist in this world, but the NPCs also have like their own stuff going on.
Yeah.
Especially
and of
with
course,
the dance, which is like a real rift.
And of course, everybody's favorite, fan favorite character, Gornola Berry,
Gornola
the shop
Berry.
teacher.
Did you know that off the top of your head? Because the last time we recorded, she showed like Ivy. I think you were trying to remember her name or something like that. And I thought none of us could remember.
It is written down in the notes, and I did double check it.
Listen, she is that's my
Gornola
that's my
Berry
answer.
has both the powers of a shop teacher and the powers of a bear.
That's my answer. A character I put a lot of work in. She'll be returning for Arc 2. She's the central character. The entire arc,
Really, the main
entire
character.
campaign. Yeah, really.
Like
It's really her
we're all
story.
supporting characters in Gornola's story.
For real. For real.
Gornola is going to be the new Ronaldo.
For sure.
I'll have to find a way to bring her back.
But like I feel like we've been swapping because for a while we adopted Kid Aries, and then redacted character is like another one that we pick up in kind of the like current like arc, where we just like continually like pick up like random NPCs. So we're like doing superhero stuff, and it's us plus like Kid Aries or something.
Yeah, that's kind of how like real life teenage friendships work. Like there's a core group who you're pretty sure are your friends, and then there's a satellite group who you're fairly sure that you're friends with, but don't quite know.
So Hayden, I'm curious, who's your favorite NPC?
Well, I like all of them because I made them. But I'll say this. One that I really want to do, I want to do more with them because they ended up, in the process of me writing them, actually developing a lot more than I thought, is Wraith. But we haven't got a chance to see that, and I want to find a way to fold her back into the show, and so we can, explore all this fun stuff that I came up with in the process of doing this show, because I really like what I've done. I really like. I also really liked Horror Show because I don't know. There's just like a really interesting dynamic there between her and Nightboy. Just because
that was really interesting.
I mean, I think part of it also is just I got so invested because you can hear my own frustration with Stan while we're having those arguments with each other, where I was like, damn it, I'm also broken up with my friend now and just trying to get them to not be such a dick. And I just really emotionally connected through the course of that.
I think Horror Show's power set's super interesting too. I'm assuming it's purposely ripping off the whole puberty is like terror, the terror of puberty, or maybe I'm just reading too much into it because I watch a lot of horror movies and stuff. But there's kind of a Ginger Snaps vibe to the whole proceedings.
I was going to say that, like, I was thinking of Ginger Snaps because I wanted to make a teen girl whose power was like kind of body horror and like kind of monstrous and weird, but in like a genuinely off-putting way.
Yeah.
Not quite as off-putting as her friend
Airhead.
Airhead was great. I liked Airhead a lot.
Oh.
I'm also a big fan of Hexbat, I think.
Oh, the face Bobby just
What?
made.
I did not make any face. I think Hexbat's an interesting character. Ooh, Hayden, am I gonna put you in blast for the D&D thing writ large?
Go ahead.
All right. Sorry. So I developed a real hatred of Hexbat personally because I realized when Hayden made the D&D club, there was only one girl in it, and I thought that was really fucked up.
Which was totally mine. Which you were right to call me on that. I didn't even fucking notice.
And I mean, it's mostly Hexback and Wraith, and then Shadow Puppet and beloved character fucking Jackalope. But
Everybody's
so
favorite.
sorry, I think that face was mostly like tied to my feelings with like Hexback as the kind of leader of this D&D club at large.
Well, I'm glad that you called me on that, because like that was the impetus for the whole thing between Wraith and Hexbat at the dance. Like, I hadn't planned that until you mentioned it, and I realized I needed to find some way to fix that. And like address the weird dynamic of that whole group. And
oh yeah, because it also felt a lot like Wraith, like being the token girl of the group and handling a lot of
basically being the emotional support of the entire team. But yeah, so like, which was, whenever you mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. So I was like, what if I can't undo this? So what if I just have a moment where she is like, you know what, I'm tired of being the only confident together person on this team and having to carry you.
That being said, Hexbat power set's a lot of fun, and I like his aesthetic, so
I like the surrealist to talk to. I had fun talking with the surrealist. I don't
sorry
know if
I laughed.
Like
It's just so Noah sent in a shot, huge fan of the show. Noah sent us in a bunch of questions, and one of them was asking about if the surrealist is gonna get more like screen time.
You know what?
And
I actually do have more planned for the surrealist.
was that intentional, or is that just upon learning that?
Oh no, it is. A lot of the characters.
Fun fact: if you're like a huge beloved, like if you have a beloved NPC that you want to hear more about, tweet us.
Oh hell yeah!
Hayden will
just
write
tell
it
us
in.
about it.
Oh,
and
100% I
we'll
will.
take it into account.
But yeah, surrealist.
We have a
is
real
definitely coming back.
surrealist stan, not stan, but a stan of the surrealist.
Which is also funny because it's literally the one person that Ray hates.
So, Stan.
Yes.
I want you to take a point on this next question, because you were kind of there from like this genesis of all this. But your listener writes in asking, how did you all meet?
Oh gosh. Well,
In real life?
originally of this group, the first two to meet were Ivy and myself, because Ivy was the first person to, first of a group of us that started up a little D&D group called Small Squad, where I was the DM, and the very next game, Hayden joined in with Alana,
Beloved character.
yeah, beloved
And
character.
Jody was Jody also
Jody was
a
there
founding
from
member?
Oh yeah, Jody was a founding member. Gosh,
Yeah, I
it's
think
been-
Jody was in it before I was.
Oh no, you weren't in the first. You came in much later. I'm sorry, it was Jody who was the first. Hayden came in the very next game. Then you came in like 3 or 4 games in with your monk.
Yeah,
And,
Yeah, my monk cough.
Yeah, you can tell who. You can tell in that group who were the later additions now, because like Small Squad got its name because the original members of that party were all like halflings, gnomes, and dwarves.
halfling,
So-
a gnome, and a dwarf.
Yeah,
and
and
And then
Michael,
over time,
Michael Rader.
as it grew, there were several party members who were giant.
Yeah, there was I played a half elf who I said was like 6'5", and then Ivy comes in with a Goliath, and we're just like, well, we keep the name because we don't want to go through changing the copyright, like change the branding. We have to get new shirts and all that.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
Michael was in that original group too. Yeah, he was like founding member. We
Yeah, Michael
unfortunately couldn't
Rader.
get him for
he
the first
was
campaign.
the dwarf.
Yes,
And then
Fufruk.
much later,
Fufruk. I loved Fufruk so much. His quest was to grow a beard.
And so, yeah, that's how we all met. And then a little bit I asked the group, who among you would like to do a podcast? And the people who joined in were Jody and Hayden and Ivy. And so there we were.
And then later, Hayden and Bobby became friends.
Right. Bobby, you joined our group, right? And that's how you met Hayden?
Yeah, so it's weird because like Ivy, I definitely knew from around on the internet because we like were all in like the same Facebook, like those podcast Facebook groups.
You were definitely a person who I recognized from the internet.
And yeah, you all too. And then Hayden was one of them. And then I think Hayden at one point posted about wanting to do a podcast when we were doing that gay shit before TSMR took over my life in a good way. About wanting to do a queer media podcast, and I signed up to do it, and that's how Hayden and I met.
Yeah, you were originally just supposed to be a guest for that gay shit, and then we just really hit it off on that one episode. And I was like, "Do you want to co-host this?" And you were like, "Sure, let's do it." And fast forward 2 years, and I'm living on their couch in New York. Although, as of last week, I got my own apartment, and I will be moving into it Friday. So, by the time this comes out, I'll have been like living in my own place for about like a month, I think.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's great. Very exciting for all of us, for different reasons. But yeah. That's how I met your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel, who actually by the time of this will have not been introduced yet, is I mentioned her a whole bunch on the podcast. We like went to college together, and she's like one of my best friends. So that's how I know Rachel and got her for this. And she has her own podcast and all that, so she seemed like a good fit and plays a lot of D&D and the like. So.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see which one we want to do next. Bobby, you want to take one?
Yeah. You're kind of skipping around, so now I'm really curious about. I have like my favorite question, but I think I'm gonna save that for later. Let's start with looking back. What moments stand out to you from the last season, or like the last arc, I guess?
I know for me personally, definitely the ending of the arc stands out to me because it did not go how I thought it was going to at all. But I loved it so much.
That was a very dramatic moment. That was one of the most like role-playing moments I've ever had in a role-playing game.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I really loved it.
Yeah. And to be super clear, at least from our point of view, I don't know, Stan, when you were thinking about leaving the show, when that split happened, though, you were not planning on leaving the show. It was just how
thinking about it.
Yeah.
I just was honestly so tired of editing. And it wasn't that I was trying to pass it. I was just like, God, this show is literally taking over my life. I come home from work, I do the show. I'm either prepping for it, editing it, or writing for it. Well, actually, not at that point, but it had been that for like over 2 years.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I was just tired. And I wanted to do something easy and stupid. And that's when I came up with Thoroughly Manly Musicals, which was a video thing that I did. That lasted a few weeks because I hated editing video even more. So I was like, I'm going to make this a dumb 5-minute podcast, and that's it.
Awesome.
Because, like, I was actually talking to Jody about it recently, because Jody was like, "Why don't you throw in some stuff from the movie?" And I said, "Because it would feel like work, and I would not enjoy doing it anymore."
As we've started doing more music for the podcast, yeah, it's definitely a thing where it's like, oh, dropping in music tracks is like a fucking thing.
Yeah.
But it's going well.
And I'm old. I mean, I'm so much older than you guys. And that's not even a joke. I'm like 20 years older than at least two of you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't notice because you just have such a youthful spirit.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess back to the question,
Your voice only grows deeper with age.
Back to the question, though, what moments stand out? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
moments that stand out for me, I think the thing I like the most about this is just I really enjoy how naturalistic some of the relationships are, because our characters are definitely exaggerated, but they're not as exaggerated as they were in the first series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So like Annie is definitely not skunk, and is therefore capable of having more human relationships, and I like that this is sometimes almost a simulation of people having relationships with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a lot of teen feelings. That just reminds me, yeah, because I think maybe listening to the podcast is how I, like, really got to, like, know you all. My favorite characters on the course of that arc, I might edit this out depending on if people care, went from Scump at very first to, like, I really fucking love Jelly towards, like, the, like, latter half of it.
Oh, Jelly really came into her own.
Yeah.
I
Just
was
my
really
slow
worried at the beginning
decline.
that Jelly was going to be another Alana.
Just my slow decline in mental health over the course of that adventure.
Yeah, you started craving blood. Yeah, that was
But
good.
Jelly became Jelly, and Jelly is so totally different from Alana that it's not even close. Jelly was great.
She actually likes people, so some people like her, so that's something.
Yeah. In some way, I think it's funny when I made Annie, because I at first thought that I was trying to do a character that's like really different from Skunk. Because, you know, Skunk was a great character, but he was he had depth to him, but I think ultimately he was a comic relief character, and I didn't want to be a character that was just a silly weird character. But like my impulse with creating a character is always to make a silly weird character, which is why Annie's name has 8 A's in it. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that, like, Annie is sort of just a more serious take on Skunk, because they have the same sort of psychological feelings about relationships, but Annie is just less covered in ridiculousness, so it shows more, if that makes sense.
She doesn't eat bugs and want to
Yeah. Because I think with Skunk, all of that weird stuff was on a certain level for him, like defense mechanism, because he didn't feel like broadcasting when he cared about stuff very much. So I wanted to, like, I think what Annie ended up being is basically a character like Skunk who's more okay with broadcasting feelings.
I really, Annie I think is like a really fun character in general. Between the, like, robot trying to be a normal teen girl thing and Annie's relationship to being a superhero, I think's like been super interesting.
Yeah,
For real.
I think it's really funny with Annie, because we're getting totally off topic. But
It's a
when
TSMR
I was
production, baby.
creating, I think not to, like, guess what all of your motivations with how you were thinking about your characters when you were creating them, but like when I was creating Annie, I was like, oh, this will be the weird outcast weirdo character, and she wants to be like a normal person, and there will be like more normal people who she'll like try and emulate to, because she has this feeling that she wants to be normal. And it's really funny because between Nightboy, Annie, and Ray, I think Annie is probably the most normal of them. Like, she's the least a weird outsider outcast.
Yeah, the only, really the only thing that's holding her back is that she's a robot.
Yeah, which I think is hilarious. That I mean, like, Ray is sort of Ray is sort of effortlessly cool and liked by popular people, but still Annie is sort of the least weird outsider of all of them, which I think is hilarious.
No, I think that's really cool, Vanny. Yeah, Ray, I really liked how Ray turned out, though, honest to God, firstly, I was, like, a little overwhelmed by the Masks playbook, because this is my first time playing Empowered by the Apocalypse system, which now I really like and is super cool, but, like, just there's a lot of options, just, like, right off the bat, and I thought the Outsider looked cool, but then my thing was, like, okay, alien character, and, like, I'm non-binary, so, like, I wanted to make a non-binary character, and I wanted to be an alien, so, yeah, like, alien who is obsessed with, like, whose, like, main, like, context is, teen girls, or specifically teen movies, but, yeah, like, teen girls, and, like, really trying to emulate that. Stan?
I'm here.
Shit. Okay, hi.
You went down, your audio dropped while I was listening, so... But don't
oh, weird. Anyway, I was just talking about Ray. Yeah. But yeah, Ray like really trying to emulate, and I think that like it's like Annie and Ray are an interesting contrast and similarities of like teen girlhood.
Yeah, because they're sort of like being that age is all about like emulation of, and like copying other things to try and figure out what thing you actually are. Mm-hmm. And Annie and Ray are sort of both based around that in different ways.
For sure.
And Nightboy is in a different way.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie and say Nightboy was a shitty version of me. Nightboy was me, and probably a little less shitty than I actually was.
Jesus Christ, Dan.
If you can believe that. But yeah, that's really all I was going for with Nightboy, plus the angst of knowing that you're stuck being the most awkward age.
That is like the worst.
Be forever.
Perhaps like the worst. It's almost like what's her face from Interview from a Vampire, but like 10 times worse. Cause like
Claudia.
Yeah, sure.
Like
Kristen Dunst. Yeah.
If a person was stuck as like a 9-year-old, that would be the most dangerous vampire ever, because I feel like being 9 years old is like the most confidence you ever have about how the world works.
That is actually, wow, I never thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
Wow.
But if you're a couple years later than that, you're just a complete mess forever.
Yeah, kind of like in Let the Right One In.
Uh-huh.
Stanford, you want to take the next question?
Sure. Where is this list
Stan
of questions? I'm so sorry.
I dropped it in the chat.
In the chat, yeah.
With the Hangout chat?
the messenger. We've also been like seriously skipping around in all of this, so.
Or you can make up a question and pretend
we
somebody
can't
asked
pretend.
it.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see why you're giving me this question. Oh, wait. What is your process? Is there? Yeah, this does not look like we've been going in order.
No,
we
not
haven't
at
been.
all.
Well, the first one was like specifically for me. I didn't want to ask the question of myself.
Yeah. Oh,
a few of them are specifically for.
I gotcha. All right, so
I've been avoiding those.
This is a question I have for you guys because I can't answer this because was very bad at this.
Oh.
What are the key ingredients necessary for a successful shopping montage?
This is my favorite question.
Okay, first thing first, I think you have to pick what your backing track is. Like,
I was gonna say music.
You've gotta, because that like sets the tone, the energy for the entire thing.
Uh-huh.
And
I
also-
think we should mix it up more. I think we should have like a shopping montage, but it's playing like all around me are from
Just the saddest one. That'll be like in the final arc right before the final battle.
Yeah.
There'll be one last.
I
shopping
will
montage.
say
set
Picking out
like
a suit
Claire
for a
Deleu.
funeral.
in the most recent episode that we recorded, there were like 3 or 4 different distinct outfit moments. So lest you worry, if you thought high school has left us, it has not. But yeah, I think music was my first thought. I also think a matter of picking out so I think you kind of have to cheat a little bit where you need to know where you're gonna wind up, and then you have to scale the next 2, because it's always 3s, I think is generally how that works. So you have a sense of what your final thing is, and then the matter of the other 2 are just figuring out shittier versions or like slowly progressing towards the final thing.
Yeah, I always think there should be one that is just completely a big no, and then one that's sort of there, and then you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you do just the full-on fuckery of what once Teen Beach Movie 2. There's a shopping montage in that where they just go through all these different eras. Is the first one that comes to mind, or 27 Dresses. Yeah, which is just and I think that at least for a podcasting space, also I think describing dealing with clothes as much as we do in an audio medium has been interesting.
For real. Fashion is an important thing.
It is.
It's funny because fashion is actually really important in video game RPGs. You don't really see it so much inside of a tabletop RPG.
Yeah, I feel like usually in tabletop games, you sort of come up with a look for the character, and it's just sort of assumed that's always what they look like. Or they have maybe one pivotal moment of transformation, and then they look different after that.
Like they get a cool scar.
I had...
Yeah.
That's the one change.
Yeah, you put on a hat.
I
And it's a sad hat, so they know that you're a sad character now.
One of my favorite characters that I've ever played in Dungeons and Dragons was my swords bard named Basil, who I played through the module Storm King's Thunder, and I made a conscious choice throughout that entire campaign to, as they leveled up, change their look once they hit certain milestones. So I had my beginner outfit, and then I had a winter mountain climbing outfit, and then I had a casino Metsona kind of look, and then the final boss battle look. And it just kept
really
going.
appreciate that commitment to aesthetic.
I also there was a running arc through that entire thing where whenever I would go to different towns, I would buy different nudie suits. And I had one that was paisley, and another one was just roses. And I would go to tailors in each town that we would go to. It was amazing.
That sounds pretty good.
But yeah, fashion should be more of a thing in
in all pen and paper, and that's specifically what we bring to the podcast. I will bite the bullet and ask a few specific questions for Hayden. All right, first up. Is there a specific music that you listen to while writing for the show?
Claire de Lune on repeat over and over. No,
I know you did a playlist for the second arc.
yeah. I don't know. Anytime I'm writing anything, I always choose like albums that I've listened to a bajillion times, so that I don't have to, so that I can just kind of zone out. So, one I've like listened to Demon Days maybe 1,000 times over the course of this campaign, and MF Doom's Food. I've listened to that a bunch too during the course of this. But that's like for like whenever I'm sitting down to actually get everything out. Otherwise, if I'm actually coming up with ideas, I come up with most ideas when I like go on walks and stuff, and I don't really listen to anything.
Or just ripping off an episode of Buffy.
Yeah,
unintentionally.
Unintentionally. Listen, I wrote that ages ago, and then you showed me that episode of Buffy, and I was like, oh fuck, no, that's what I wanted to do. But I think it's something that has been done enough that I can be forgiven.
All right. I guess let's just blitz through the Hayden-centric questions. That's probably the best way just to do this. What's your process for creating an NPC?
Different thing. Well, I guess I have two different ways. One is like, if I need an NPC that is very plot centric, like say like the Inquisitor, or Astro Girl or someone like that, I think a lot about their dynamic with what their dynamic would be with the party, and how they can play off of you guys specifically. And then for like other like NPCs that maybe aren't as plot centric, I just trying to think of archetypes in teen movies and then superherify it, or the opposite. I think of superheroes and then like okay, if Thor was in high school,
okay, wait, but which character is Thor now? Which NPC is the Thor-based character?
Oh, there isn't one
yet. Okay.
No. But like Nocturne was like, there's got to be like a cool person. There's got to be like a cool person at this school who's like, just kind of really chill and kind of gets along with everyone, but is kind of like on the fringes of all the social groups. And then there's got to be like the pretentious art kid, which is the surrealist.
So I was gonna say the surrealist is getting like a lot of attention in this Q&A episode.
For a character that really only had significant screen time in one episode,
and even then barely significant screen time.
For realsies.
Nocturne reminded me of a girl I had a crush on in high school. So she was pretty, she was really cool, but she kind of like wasn't in any group. And she loved writing poetry, and she said the only thing she wrote poetry about was sex and death. And I was like, how much does a 16-year-old know about that?
A regular Margot Spiegelman.
For real.
Hayden and I just watched Paper Towns this weekend, and it is a bad movie.
It is. Yes, it is. It is.
Oh,
no good.
I've heard it's not great.
Oh, it is not.
Anyway,
can I ask a question related to something you said, Hayden?
Yeah.
When you are making a character, do you ever think like, this is a character that's gonna be like a Ray character or an Annie character? Like, this is do you make a character with the intention of playing off of something about a particular other character?
Sometimes, yeah. Well, definitely, Astro Girl specifically, I didn't make her specifically for Ray, but because Ray, I knew that like the popular girl aspect of her character would give Ray, would get something out of, some kind of reaction out of Ray because how much that character is view of the world is based off of teen movies. So I thought that putting a character that was very much in like a Mean Girls character kind of mold would be interesting to see how you did.
You need that. Like, I feel like we couldn't do a high school thing and not have that kind of character.
Switch too. I actually did make Switch specifically for Ray.
Your own self-insert character.
Well, I knew. So I wanted to see like what would happen when confronted with a character that was like very, really didn't have a filter and was just like very kind of in your face, and see how Ray dealt with that because of how often they're still adjusting to things on Earth. So to give them like someone with a very strong personality, I thought would be interesting. And I knew that also Hexbat, I knew that I knew that certain aspects of his character would clash with Nightboy a lot. And I thought that might be interesting to explore.
I actually have a similar question. So who came up with Horror Show and her relationship to Nightboy?
One thing I did before the podcast this arc started was like talk with all of you about like where you were in the school, like social on like the social ladder in the school, like what the types of kids you would hang out with. And I came to Stan, and Stan was very much like, Nightboy doesn't hang out with anyone. And I was like, well, okay, that's fine, we can do that. But in my quest to make Stan write a backstory for a PC, I was like, what if there's a kid at the school that you do know? And I pitched that to him, that like you knew before you turned into a vampire, because I thought that would be an interesting idea. And would like, give him something to work off of as a role player, and he dug the idea. And so it's kind of bare bones idea was just you have a childhood friend who also had some weird shit happen to them, but you grew apart because of your mutual horror movie inspired transformations.
Very cool. Yeah, and I don't think, at least to my knowledge, the Ray Astrogirl stuff was not remotely, and I didn't even see that coming till the shopping episode.
Yeah,
the
I
first
did not
of many
expect that.
shopping episode was like all of a sudden when it turned, and to my knowledge, I did not plan on this at all. So unless Hayden has some like very sneaky like social like maneuvering skills.
No, I always intended for, if you got a chance to know Astro Girl, that like you would find out that like there was more to her than just like the mean girl stereotype, and like find out kind of why she is the way that she is whenever like she's around other students and stuff. But beyond that, I didn't have any plans for like what happened. But like that's kind of the way that I am with all the characters. Like a lot of them have like some kind of image that they are projecting. But like if you decide to dig into them, like you'll find out that like there's more to them. Like, you know, whenever you meet any person. And I always plan for that kind of stuff just in case, because you never know like what NPC the players will latch onto and want to know more about, and I want to be ready. Also, I just really like writing that stuff, so any minor character has like a whole thing about them just because I can't stop making NPCs.
I have another question related to this question and the previous question. Are there any characters that unexpectedly for you, Hayden, became a big deal, or ones that you expected to be a big deal and never went anywhere?
I think, yeah, Astro Girl, I knew that because of like the twist of like it's not,
it's a twist, just call it a twist.
Okay, well, because of like way that the plot was going to unravel, the mystery was going to unravel, I knew that she was going to be a big deal. But I never expected y'all to like actually become friends with her. So that was not something that I was expecting. I thought that Switch I thought would be more in, well, I mean, they have been in quite a number of episodes, but I thought that y'all would latch onto them a bit more than you did. But because of like the way that some decisions that y'all made kind of led you away from some of the other students and into your own stuff for a little bit, so I think that probably had something to do with it. Well, I think, but yeah, so maybe that. Oh, actually, you know what? I take that back. A horror show. I kept thinking that she was going to be folded into like the main plot more. I thought that something was going to develop with that, and that she was going to be folded in more like where Nocturne is, kind of, in terms of like how central they were to that first arc, but that never really happened.
I actually have and I can edit this out if you want. So I know we were talking about it, and I know you were saying that originally Kid Aries was going to be the character who like wound up doing the Astro Girl stuff when the twist happened. Did you? At what point did you decide to not? At like what point did you do that like NPC swap?
I think it was like the episode. It was either the episode of the party, or it was the episode, like just before that. Sometime around there, I did that.
Okay, and then how did the getaway driver thing fit into that? Because Kid Aries, to my knowledge, doesn't have like that power set.
That was like, there was gonna be a thing that was that I might reuse for something else, so I can't say.
Yeah. Okay. Is there like a Kid Aries Batmobile?
An Aries mobile?
Yeah.
No, to my knowledge, no. I haven't ridden one, but that's a good idea.
This I'm not sure. All right. Is there some kind of classification system in universe for the powers in this world?
Like in fiction?
That seems to be what they're asking.
Not... Huh. I've never really thought about it. I mean, I'm sure that, like, there are, like, wikis and stuff that, like, people have made, like, classifying power sets and stuff like that. Just like there are in real world, in the real world, with, like, people, like, categorizing stuff from comics and, like, psionic abilities, magic abilities, and stuff like that. So, yes. It's not something I've ever really thought about, because I just take it as a given that, like, if I say that someone is a psychic, they generally will know what I'm talking about. So in universe as well, like, that can just be taken as a given.
Also, I think you have a lot of people with kind of weird power sets that aren't like, I think there actually haven't been that many like traditional, like, I guess Kid Aries kind of counts as far as like gadget based heroes go, or like, but like, well, not Miss Maverick, she's basically Captain America, but shoot, Barrage, I like her power set's weird, or like Switch, or even Taurus for that matter, or like Lucy and Beale, like they all kind of like all those power sets I don't like necessarily like I think are traditional superhero power sets.
I will say that was something I always really liked doing, was like making something that I really like doing is like trying to find weird ways for powers to work, or like interesting twists on powers. Like,
I like how they're familiar enough that you can say in short what they do, but it's unique enough that it's not just like, I can't think of any characters in this that you can easily like no character is like, oh, this one's just Wolverine or whatever.
Yeah, I think generally Halcyon City feels like a very cool, like it feels like an actual city in a way that I like a lot of generic superhero settings. Also, I was legitimately shocked to learn that Hayden apparently invented the whole Sentinels concept, and that did not, like, come as part of, like, masks writ large or anything.
I figured, like, there had to be a big superhero group.
Yeah,
of
no,
some
it
kind.
totally makes sense, and it, like, blended in really seamlessly, and overall, like, it just makes a lot of sense in how it works and all of that. Like, it's, like, none of this, like, feels, like, weird or, like, running on a pastiche or anything, so I, like, really thought that, like, it was part of the original playbook or something.
That was one thing I didn't want to do, like, from Jump Street and all this, is I didn't want to get too pastiche. And there have been some characters that I've made that are like, what if this character but different?
Mm-hmm.
But but that was never my main goal in any of this, because I genuinely love comic books and superhero stuff, so I just saw this as a chance for me to, like, play in that world that I really like.
Yeah, and I just to be clear, like, I called Miss Maverick, like, a Captain America type figure, but even then she's, like, a little bit different, if nothing else, because she's, like, a theoretical educator at that point. All right, here is kind of a two-party question. What kind of hero would Hayden create if they were playing, and what kind of villains would everyone else make if they were DMing?
I'm curious to hear y'all's answer to this.
I had the hardest. Yeah.
I can go first because I have mine already. So
You've been thinking about this?
well, yes, because a lot of NPCs that exist in this in Masks are PCs that I made in the hopes that maybe one day I would get to play this game. Like, Metalface actually is a PC.
No!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he's different from his personality is a lot different from whenever I played him. But like his power set and stuff is exactly. And like Switch 2 was
Well, again, that's your self-insert character, so...
Switch is the most that. Like, if I was to play, Switch would be the character. I mean, I would use the Delinquent book.
Mm-hmm.
And Switch, as a character, was born out of the idea, like, I was looking through the Delinquent playbook, and one of the powers is teleportation. And I was like, okay, anytime I make a PC in Masks, I'm always like, okay, the power set is whatever power you can choose is basically limitless. So I always like to think, okay, what's the limitations on this, so that whenever I'm playing this, I know where my boundaries are. And so I thought, teleportation, I like that power, but like, what's a different limitation I could put on it other than sight lines, like Nightcrawler or something like that? And I was like, what if it was just you switch places with something roughly the same, that has roughly the same amount of mass as you, and how that would affect that power set. And
that was really cool. Also, the reveal of Switch's power set was, like, unbelievably frustrating, but cool.
That's one thing that I've been that has been a real challenge to me so far, is that, like, we have a lot of characters who have this is a superhero campaign, but, like, there are a lot of superhero NPCs who you do not know their powers.
Yeah.
And I have thought of various ways to get around that and, like, to give you that information, and I've never found one that has worked. So, like, Nocturne, does anyone have any idea what her powers are?
Oh, wait,
Nocturnal?
So I assumed it was some kind of, like, either it's, like, a musical-based thing, or... Because I know... So I couldn't tell... In my preview episode, she manages to do a distraction with darkness, and I couldn't tell if it was just all the lights went off or something else happened. If something else happened, that's what I remember thinking her power set is, but it's been long enough I forgot. Or it's something music-based.
You're right in that, like, the distraction when the lights going off is part of her powers.
Yeah.
So maybe one day you'll get to actually see. But, like, she's a big one. Like, she's one of the first NPCs they ever made, and I, like, put a lot of thought into actually what her powers are, and we still have never seen it.
She has a car.
She has a car, the greatest power any teen can have.
Truly.
Yeah, we haven't seen her in a while. I hope that we see her again soon.
Oh, definitely. She's one of my favorite NPCs. I really
Yeah.
like her.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question since I first saw it, and I have like no fucking clue, which I feel like is not helpful. But like, so my first thing was like, and Hayden and I were talking about this. I feel like what would Ray's like. So I joke about how the Surrealist is Ray's nemesis, but like what Ray's like actual nemesis would be. And Hayden suggested Cheryl Blossom, basically from Riverdale, if she was, you know, actually like an antagonist as opposed to what like.
Well, it's basically like, I think evil Astro Girl would be.
Uh-huh.
Or I could see another alien character who's like another alien foreign exchange student, but just has no interest in humanity whatsoever.
Just
yeah.
too cool for school.
Like,
alien.
Yeah, just like
I admit, I want to go back in time and make that now. Just like forget the twist with the school
I
being a
once
prison.
met two French foreign exchange students, and one hated the other because she was really dedicated to learning English.
yeah.
And she like spoke almost perfectly without an accent or anything, and she hated the guy because he spoke with a really strong French accent, and thought that he was like lazy and such a jerk because he spoke with a French accent. And I feel like that would be sort of like Ray if she met another alien,
Well, it's funny because
or if they met another alien.
yeah, if you look at the Outsider playbook, I had to kind of tweak it. You can kind of build that character in one of two ways. One of which is like super into humanity, and the other side is like super aloof and not into humanity. And I kind of had to tweak it, where as opposed to being, well, I guess it's sort of into humanity, but as opposed to actual humanity, it's like, okay, it's teen movies. So yeah, I think Ray's nemesis would be like, yeah, an alien who's just, but like, who just is super is like, fuck people. Or like who like totally actually is them whenever they're like, no, that's not how they, like, that's not how, you know, like, it's not a teen movie.
Oh, damn. It's just like someone. Okay, so like what you're just, so your Ray's nemesis would be like a character from Ready Player One.
Yes, exactly.
Have you even seen 10 Things I Hate About You? You would know.
Yeah.
that the actual line is.
I have to say, Ready Player One flubs a Heather's reference and kind of flubs a Doctor Who reference at 2 points. That's when I lost complete respect for the book, because if you're engaging in that level of pedantry, get that shit right. Anyway,
Yeah,
that
true.
book is written at an 8th grade level by a man who thinks at a 5th grade level. So fuck that book.
So I guess that's impressive in a certain way.
I know, right?
anyway, Stan and Ivy.
You go ahead, Ivy.
Oh, sure.
Adult Night Boy.
That's a difficult question. Partially because Hayden has gone like above and beyond in the amount of characters there are that don't just feel like random names. They're like characters. But I think my tendency with characters is often to like with NPCs, I think I would kind of make characters that are a little more broad, because I like specific, and I mean Hayden obviously does this. They make a lot of characters that are based on like specific archetypes, but I really enjoy the idea of having a high school full of high schoolers who are trying to embody different archetypes of superhero-dom. And like we haven't met a character who like thinks that he's Superman or that type of thing. And I think it would be interesting, like, to see what it would be like for characters who are really trying to be like adult superheroes, even though they're kids. I think that would be interesting. And Hayden tends to make characters that are a little more human than that. Like they're more toned down in terms of like broad like roles in terms of both high school and superhero things. I think in general Hayden leans towards the teen part, and I think I would lean more towards the superhero part if it was my campaign. If I was making all the characters.
I like the leading on the teen stuff, especially after I started reading Spider-Man comics a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago actually.
How's that going, Stan?
Right now that's on pause while I'm doing the rest of my life.
Have you gotten to the best character ever, the Spot?
Oh, dude, I got to the Enforcers a long time ago.
Oh, the Spot is my favorite Spider-Man
villain
ever.
Oh, the Spot. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
No, I have not gotten to... Is that Romita?
No, that's not... like Senior, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might be Ramita. Yeah, he's body. We don't have time for this. Sorry, what were you saying?
But I, as far as like a villain goes, I already did. Like, I just wanted to do an straight up evil villain who gave no fucks, and I did that with the last one. I didn't want to do a villain who had like good intentions and then it went awry. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love those kind of bad guys. I just wanted to do an Iago style villain who's just a piece of shit. And I loved what Noelle brought to that role. Noelle from Daves and Dragons. And this time, like, if I were to do it in this world, I would create a superhero that's essentially Jesus and have them be like super charismatic and everyone likes them. And then as they get more powerful, or not more powerful, but more, their influence broadens, they become more demanding. And
so you're
consequently ends up
basically
becoming...
making Charles Manson.
Yeah. Well, I mean, was there anything ever good about Charles Manson?
No, it's Stan
or the Jonestown guy.
I was gonna.
His music wasn't even good for very late period
Or
Beach Boys.
okay, the Jonestown guy who like did actually like he like managed to get a lot of like black people because he like was really really pro civil rights and all of that, but
And,
like
like,
also
healthcare.
just killed a bunch of people like Jonestown guy.
Yeah, well, this wouldn't be like this wouldn't be trying to kill his followers. It'd be like submit or die kind of thing. And and that has a lot more to do with my own feelings toward growing up Catholic and how I've changed in my life. But I think that would be an interesting thing. Like, an idea I always had for a book was like something like, what if, kind of like what they did with that Neil Gaiman and oh gosh, what's that other guy?
Terry
What's that
Pratchett?
show? Terry Pratchett. What's the name of that
Good
show?
Omens?
Good Omens. Kind of
Yeah.
like what they did with Good Omens was like, what if the Bible was all true, except my thing is, but God had been alive so long that God was insane. And the people would have to basically kill God was the
So
idea
the Golden
of the story.
Compass.
Well, see, I never read the Golden Compass. Now I have to because I guess that's the story.
Spoilers for the Golden Compass.
Or, I mean, technically the Amber Spyglass. I think that's the third one.
Why, that's the last of them, right?
Yes. But also, if you missed out on that, like, there was, like, literally decades-long discourse around this. Like, I'm sorry to burst your bubble on that.
Probably, but that was an idea that I came up with. God, back in 2006, and never did anything with it because I figured someone had already written it. Not that I was ever going to write anything anyway.
Let's see. See, looking at other question. Here's one. Which side did the machinist pick? Beloved character, the machinist.
I had to, like, ask Hayden who this was, because...
She appeared in... That is a character that I made that was like, oh, she's gonna go places, and then never went anywhere, but that was completely on me, because I got sidetracked with a bajillion other NPCs that I had that eventually I was like, why am I holding on to this? I'll just let this one go. But yeah, she appeared in one episode and was originally supposed to be Annie's, like, weird kind of foil at school.
Yeah, that's right.
It was like the impetus for, like, Annie being in detention, but, like, it's never shown up again, ever.
I think Annie became a much happier person when they stopped being friends.
That's so... Annie had so much character development, so, like, right out of the gate. Which side did she pick? I don't know, we'll find out as we go along.
Whoa, there'll be more machinists, huh?
Will there be?
all these NPCs and more are coming back. I'm really excited for you to all meet an NPC that I fucking hate. Oh, Hayden does have a Batman Riff character who's coming. I'll edit that out maybe if it's secrets, but
Oh. Uh-huh.
I hate it so much.
Oh, really?
I hate Batman. Don't at me.
I mean,
Can't wait to
Batman
hear
is
this.
the worst. No, I'll do.
Hayden's
Fight me,
Batman.
nerds. My Batman.
Anyway, Hayden made a Batman riff.
More like don't at me.
Oh my god. Alright, is that all of them?
I think that's all of them.
Oh, wow. Wow. I guess that's everything. I don't know. Does any amongst us have any questions for each others before we sign off? Or
How do you like being GM?
it's fun. I get to tell everyone what to do. No, it's fun. I like it a lot. This is like the longest that I've been a regular GM. So it's a different experience for me, but it's been so much fun because all of you make very strong choices, and I wanted to build this.
That sounds like a veiled, like if you're talking about like their 2-year-old being like very what's the word, strong-willed, or
Such a strong personality.
Yeah.
No, I mean that genuinely, because I wanted to make this campaign in such a way that you had the freedom to make a lot of choices, and because of that, I've had to react just as much to the stuff happening in the campaign as you guys are in a lot of moments, which I really like. Like development with Astro Girl, the ending of the first arc, so much of the stuff like with like the mystery unfolding and all of that, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm really liking it.
And
I'm trying to think.
how do you like being a part of this podcast, Bobby?
It's a lot of fun.
Has it upended your life?
A little bit, but I like yeah. So I like we had to stop doing that gay shit just because I couldn't handle them both. But I really like editing pen and paper RPG, like an actual play podcast. It's weird they're so popular because I feel like they're a weird beast as far as editing goes that then like a talking podcast isn't. So it's just like one of those things where it became so much and like that gay shit just fell by the wayside, which is fine. That's fun. I like the challenges, but it's a weird beast. But it's great. Our fans are great. I think Ray's a blast, and I really like playing them. And it's super fun recording with Ivy and Hayden and Stan. I miss you, but you seem to be doing well. And are you still doing community theater, or is it like, did you wrap up your performance, or?
Wrapped up my first one. I'm in a second show where we just did our second weekend. Got 2 more weekends to go. Got an audition on Monday for White Christmas, and I was asked to audition for that. It's just going to probably be a chorus role just because they always need men in musicals. And, mostly I've been doing it just to get out. That's another thing is this podcast was an excuse for me to stay in all the time and not do anything. And since I've been doing this since late June, I've lost over 30 pounds, 33 pounds, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
Wow.
So, go you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a couple deck chairs off the Titanic, but it's, it's big movement for me. So I know it's a 2-year goal that I've got, but it's been great getting out and kind of facing my anxiety and feeling productive in a different way.
Nice.
Glad that you're doing good, Stan. Makes me happy.
And everyone should really check out Stan's run on Dames. It was, or that one episode that you guessed it on, Stan. It was, I think I told you this in Messenger, but you did it I really loved your episode.
Thank you so
and
much.
Hayden should catch up on Dames because they're like super behind.
Way to put me on blast.
Well, now
I'm
maybe
not caught up on it either.
All right, well you should catch up too.
I'm one arc behind. Okay, I'm almost caught up.
They were super sweet. They were just so great to work with. The only thing is like hearing them all come from one ear without being able to tell their voices apart was difficult. But their characters were so specific that it wasn't too bad, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, at least you guys should check out that episode just to kind of get an idea of where you're going. It's not real big spoiler. It's not spoiler heavy. So if you wanted to listen to it, feel free. I don't think it would ruin anything for you.
Also, it's a really cute Mononoke riff if you're a fan of Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, that was a good time. So check that out, please. And also, we kind of touched on it. I'm doing this thing called Thoroughly Manly Musicals. It's just a 5-minute podcast. It sucks, but it's only 5 minutes. So once it's done, you won't even know you heard it.
Just for reference, if anybody wants to know specifically, the episode is James and Dragons episode 62, The Weeping God Part 3.
Yeah.
Which sounds cool.
I don't believe I'm the weeping god.
Yeah.
I feel like they would told you if you were.
You were the
wouldn't
titular
spring the
character
fact
of
that
this arc.
somebody is a weeping god on somebody.
You're going to have to cry a lot in this episode.
Well, we're out of questions, and I think this is a good place to wrap up this Q&A episode. So, Stan, thanks so much for coming back. Because remember, even though you leave the podcast, you never really leave. You've always been here.
I have. No, I love this show and I miss it. And I, as a result, I also said, I became a patron myself. No longer a beneficiary of the Patreon. I am a patron.
Mm-hmm. Giving back to the community.
Yep.
Lining our pockets.
Making out like thieves.
So, do what I do and give money to this podcast.
Mm-hmm. If you want to be like Stan, if you want to be a weeping god like Stan, you should give me money.
That's right. Don't it? Yeah.
If you want to get the real good Patreon perks, you should just bypass the Patreon and give it directly to me.
Yeah.
I have secret perks that
I
haven't even told anybody about.
Put your Venmo info or just right here, and then just send it right there.
Ivy Perky.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, as always, you can find us on Twitter at TSMRcast. I run that. You can check us out on Facebook, and we have a Facebook group if you want to get in there, hang out with other folks. We also have a newly minted Discord. So
Yeah.
get in there on that and do that. How do we get people on Discord?
If you become a patron, we haven't. There's an invite link. We're still working on making that happen. If you would like the Discord link, hit me up on socials, and I can get you a link.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter. We'll send you over a link to the Discord. It's pretty lively in there. We're having a good time. And
it's not that discordant.
It is not. It's quite orderly and polite, which I'm loving so far. Right. Well, until next time, dear listeners, we'll catch you in multiverse and all that. Thank you again, Stan, for coming on. It's always great.
Thank you so much. I miss you guys and love you guys.
I love you too, Stan. All right. Until next time, dear listeners, fly on, you beautiful night birds, and thank you for all of your listener-submitted questions.
Yep.
Right.
Let us do the stop.
Look at that. QA2?